You're a pathetic excuse for a father, and today everyone will finally see the truth," my ex said before the hearing began. She had no idea the judge was about to ask for the one piece of evidence that would expose her lies. The first time my ex-wife called me a deadbeat father, it was in private. The 100th time, she did it on Facebook. By the time we walked into family court, she'd convinced half the town that I had abandoned my own daughter. The only problem? None of it was true. My name is Michael Carter. I'm 41 years old. And if there's one thing I learned during my divorce, it's this: the loudest person in the room isn't always the honest one. Sometimes they're just the one who's terrified the truth is about to catch up. 3 years earlier, I thought I had a good life. I owned a small auto repair shop outside Columbus, Ohio. Nothing fancy, just 6 mechanics, a loyal customer base, and enough work to keep everyone busy. My wife, Jessica, worked as an office administrator for a private dental practice. We had a 6-year-old daughter named Lily. She was the center of my world. Every Saturday morning, we'd make pancakes together. I'd let her stir the batter while pretending she was the head chef. She always added too many chocolate chips. I always pretended not to notice. Those mornings were my favorite part of every week. Then Jessica started changing. First, it was little things. She suddenly needed girls' nights almost every Friday. She started locking her phone. She became strangely irritated whenever Lily wanted to spend time with me instead of her. One night, I came home early because a customer canceled at the last minute. Jessica wasn't home. Lily was sitting alone in the living room watching cartoons. "Where's Mommy? She said she'd be back soon. Did she leave you by yourself?" Lily shrugged. "I've been watching TV." I checked the microwave clock. Jessica had left almost 2 hours earlier. Called her. No answer. She finally came home 45 minutes later carrying shopping bags. "You left Lily alone?" "I was only gone for a little while. It was almost 3 hours. She rolled her eyes. "She's 6, Michael. Relax." "No." I looked at our daughter. "You don't leave a 6-year-old home alone." Instead of apologizing, Jessica got angry. "You always make me feel like I'm a terrible mother." "I never said that." "You don't have to." That argument lasted 2 days. It was also the beginning of the end. Over the next year, our marriage completely fell apart. Counseling didn't help. Conversations turned into arguments. Arguments turned into silence. Eventually, she asked for a divorce. I didn't fight it. Some relationships can be repaired. Ours couldn't. The divorce itself wasn't particularly ugly. First, we agreed on shared custody. We agreed to split our savings. I even let her keep most of the furniture because Lily was used to seeing it every day. I wanted our daughter to have as much stability as possible. For the first few months after the divorce, things were surprisingly civil. Then Jessica started dating someone new. His name was Travis. He sold luxury real estate and loved posting photos of expensive watches, sports cars, and rooftop parties. Within weeks, Lily started saying things that didn't sound like a 7-year-old. "Daddy, Mommy says mechanics don't make enough money." "Daddy, Mommy says Travis has a real career." "Daddy, are we poor?" Every sentence felt like a punch to the chest. I never criticized Jessica in front of Lily. Not once. Children shouldn't have to choose sides. Apparently, Jessica disagreed. Then one Friday, I drove to Jessica's house to pick Lily up for my weekend. Jessica opened the door but didn't move aside. "Lily isn't going." "What?" "She doesn't want to." I frowned. "I'll ask her myself." "No. You can't stop me from seeing my daughter." She crossed her arms. "Watch me." I immediately called my attorney. Within an hour, he reminded Jessica that she was violating our custody agreement. She finally let Lily come with me, but something had changed. Lily was unusually quiet the entire weekend. Sunday evening, while we were baking cookies, she suddenly asked, "Daddy?" "Yeah, sweetheart. Did you leave us because you don't love Mommy anymore?" I nearly dropped the mixing bowl. "What?" "Mommy says happy families don't get divorced." I knelt beside her. "Lily, no matter what happens between adults, I gently held her little hands. None of this is because of you. She hugged me so tightly I thought my heart would break. The attacks became more frequent after that. Jessica started posting vague messages online. Some fathers only show up when the court forces them to. Real dads don't need custody schedules. She never mentioned my name. She didn't have to. Everyone knew who she meant. Customers at my repair shop started acting differently. One longtime client awkwardly asked, "So, are things okay with your daughter?" That's when I realized Jessica wasn't just trying to hurt me. She was trying to destroy my reputation. Then, 6 months later, she filed a petition for sole custody. In the paperwork, she claimed I was emotionally absent, financially irresponsible, and only wanted shared custody to avoid paying more child support. Every accusation was a lie. My attorney wasn't worried. "Do you have your payment records?" "Every one. Messages. Saved. Photos. Thousands." He smiled. "Good. I thought that would be enough." I had no idea Jessica was just getting started. By the time our court hearing arrived, she'd managed to convince several mutual friends that I barely cared about Lily. As we sat outside the courtroom waiting to be called, she walked past me with a smug smile. She leaned down just enough so only I could hear her. Then she whispered, "You're a pathetic excuse for a father, and today everyone will finally see the truth." I looked at her for a long moment. Then I quietly replied, "We'll see." A few minutes later, the courtroom doors opened. The bailiff called our names, and neither of us realized that before the day was over, the judge was going to ask for one specific piece of evidence that would change everything. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No dramatic audience, no shouting lawyers, just a judge, a court reporter, the bailiff, our attorneys, Jessica, and me. Yet somehow it felt more intimidating than any room I'd ever walked into. The judge, an older woman with nearly 30 years on the family court bench, glanced through our file before looking up. "Mr. Carter, Ms. Reynolds." She adjusted her glasses. "My understanding is that this is a petition to modify custody." Both attorneys stood. Jessica's lawyer went first. He painted a picture of me that barely resembled the person I knew. According to him, I was emotionally unavailable. I constantly missed parenting time. I rarely attended school events. I contributed the minimum financially. He even claimed Lily had begun expressing fear about spending weekends with me. Every sentence felt like another punch. Not because I believed it, because I couldn't believe someone was saying it under oath. When he finished, Jessica dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. She looked like the perfect heartbroken mother. The judge turned to her. "Mrs. Reynolds, is there anything you'd like to add?" Jessica nodded. "I've never wanted to keep Lily away from her father. That was the first lie. I've only ever wanted what's best for my daughter. The second, Michael loves looking like a good dad. The third, but when no one's watching." She paused dramatically. "He disappears." She glanced toward me with practiced sadness. "I've begged him to be more involved." My attorney simply wrote something on his legal pad. He didn't interrupt. He didn't object. He just waited. Then it was our turn. My attorney stood. "Your Honor, we'd like to respond to each allegation individually." For the next hour, he calmly dismantled Jessica's claims. She said I'd missed school events. We produced attendance logs signed by teachers. I'd actually attended more parent events than she had that year. She claimed I skipped medical appointments. We submitted pediatric records. My name appeared on nearly every visit. She alleged I'd failed to pay support on time. Bank records showed every payment had arrived early for almost 3 years. The judge quietly made notes after each document. Jessica's confidence began fading. Still, she kept insisting there was more. Then her attorney played what he clearly believed was his strongest card. He held up a printed calendar. "Your Honor, Mr. Carter missed 12 scheduled custody exchanges over the last year." Jessica nodded dramatically. "Exactly." The judge looked toward us. "Mr. Carter?" Before I could answer, my attorney smiled. "We'd like to see the text messages corresponding to those dates." Jessica's lawyer hesitated. "The messages?" "Yes. The complete conversations. Jessica shifted uncomfortably. We don't have all of them. My attorney nodded. We do. He handed the court a thick binder. Every exchange, every text, every date, every timestamp. The judge began reading. The first missed visit wasn't missed at all. Jessica had texted me at 7:12 that morning. Lily has a birthday party today. Can we swap weekends? I agreed. The second, Jessica had canceled because Lily had the flu. The third, Jessica had asked if I could take Lily on Monday instead because of a family reunion. Again, I agreed. One by one, every so-called missed visit turned out to be changes Jessica herself had requested. The judge looked up. Mrs. Reynolds. Jessica swallowed. Yes, Your Honor? These calendar entries appear incomplete. Jessica's attorney quickly stepped in. Your Honor. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding. The judge raised a hand. I wasn't speaking to counsel. Silence filled the room. The judge turned another page. Then another. Finally, she looked directly at Jessica. Did you omit these conversations when preparing your custody calendar? Jessica opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her attorney leaned over and whispered something. She nodded. I didn't think they were relevant. The judge's expression hardened. They are the difference between a father refusing visitation. She held up the binder. And a father accommodating a mother's requests. The room fell silent again. Jessica no longer looked confident. For the first time that morning, she looked nervous. My attorney wasn't finished. Neither was the judge. And sitting inside that evidence binder was one more document that Jessica had completely forgotten existed. Jessica's attorney quickly tried to recover. Your Honor, even if there were scheduling changes, this doesn't address Mr. Carter's lack of involvement in Lily's daily life. My attorney didn't even look concerned. Instead, he opened the evidence binder to another section. Actually, it does. He handed several pages to the bailiff, who passed them to the judge. They're copies of the messages between my client and Ms. Reynolds over the past 18 months. The judge adjusted her glasses and began reading. The first message was from Jessica. Can you pick Lily up from school? I have a last-minute appointment. My reply, already on my way. Another, can you keep Lily tonight? Travis surprised me with tickets to a concert. Of course. Another, can you take her to dance class? I'm running late. Already signed her in. Page after page showed the same pattern. Whenever Jessica wanted free time, I stepped in, without arguing, without complaining. The judge looked up. Mr. Carter appears to have provided considerably more childcare than your petition suggests. Jessica shifted in her chair. I was only asking for help. My attorney nodded. Exactly. He turned another page. And every time Mr. Carter helped, it was later described in the petition as him taking extra visitation because he refused to communicate. Jessica stared at the table. Then came the school records. Lily's second-grade teacher had signed a statement confirming I regularly volunteered during reading days, attended parent conferences, and was listed as the first emergency contact because I consistently answered my phone. Jessica had listed herself first on the paperwork. But after repeatedly missing calls from the school, the office quietly began calling me instead. The judge noticed that immediately. Mrs. Reynolds. Jessica looked up. Can you explain why the school contacted Mr. Carter before you? Jessica hesitated. I work. The judge nodded. So does Mr. Carter. No response. The judge made another note. Then my attorney reached into his briefcase one more time. I believe we're ready to address the claim that Mr. Carter is emotionally absent. He placed a small flash drive on the evidence table. Jessica frowned. What is that? My client's home security footage. She laughed softly. What does that prove? My attorney looked at the judge. With the court's permission? The judge nodded. The courtroom monitor lit up. The first clip showed me teaching Lily to ride her bicycle. She fell, started crying. I knelt beside her until she laughed again. The next clip showed us planting flowers in the backyard. Another showed us building a birdhouse together. Then came birdhouse together. Then came videos from birthdays, science fair projects, Christmas mornings, pancake Saturdays. Nothing was staged. They were simply moments automatically recorded by the backyard cameras over the years. Lily's laughter filled the courtroom speakers. Even the court reporter smiled. Jessica stared straight ahead. She never looked at the screen. When the final clip ended, the judge remained silent for several seconds. Then she quietly said, "Mr. Carter appears to spend meaningful, consistent time with his daughter." Jessica's attorney stood again. "Your Honor, family videos don't tell the whole story." "No," the judge agreed. "They don't." She looked at my attorney. "But they do contradict the allegation that this father is emotionally detached." My attorney thanked her and sat down. I thought we were finished. Then the judge picked up another document from the binder. She frowned, looked at it again, then back at Jessica. "Mrs. Reynolds." Jessica looked nervous. "Yes." The judge held up several printed screenshots. "What exactly are these?" My attorney calmly answered, "Social media posts, Your Honor." Jessica's face instantly lost all color, because she just recognized which screenshots the judge was holding. And judging by the expression on her attorney's face, he'd never seen them before either. Jessica's attorney leaned toward her. "What social media posts?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. The judge looked at the first screenshot. "This was posted on April 12th. She read aloud. "Finally got a kid-free weekend. Drinks first, responsibilities later." The courtroom was silent. The date at the top of the screenshot matched one of the weekends Jessica had claimed I failed to pick up Lily. My attorney stood. "Your Honor, that weekend Mr. Carter actually had Lily from Friday evening until Monday morning because Ms. Reynolds asked him to keep her longer." The judge looked back at the post. "So while telling the court she was being forced to handle parenting alone," she tapped the paper, "she publicly celebrated having a child-free weekend." Jessica shifted uncomfortably. "It was just a joke." My attorney didn't respond. He simply handed over another screenshot. The judge read this one herself. "Road trip with my favorite person. No interruptions. No responsibilities." The attached photo showed Jessica smiling beside Travis at a lakeside resort. The timestamp? Father's Day weekend. The same Father's Day she'd claimed I refused to spend with Lily. My attorney calmly spoke. "Mr. Carter has gas receipts, restaurant receipts, and photos from the zoo showing he spent that entire weekend with his daughter." Jessica's attorney rubbed his forehead. The judge looked at Jessica. "Mrs. Reynolds." Jessica whispered, "Yes. Did you knowingly submit a custody timeline that omitted these facts?" Jessica hesitated. I didn't think dash. "No," the judge interrupted. "I didn't ask what you thought. I asked whether you knowingly omitted them." Jessica looked at her attorney for help. He remained silent. After nearly 20 seconds, she quietly answered, "Yes." The room became so quiet that I could hear the air conditioning. The judge made another note. Then she turned another page. "There appears to be more." "There is," my attorney replied. He handed over a printed Facebook post. Jessica's eyes widened. "No." The judge adjusted her glasses. "This post says," she read it slowly, "some men only fight for custody because they don't want to pay child support." The judge looked at the date, then looked at the financial records we'd already submitted. "According to these bank statements," she held up another document, "Mr. Carter voluntarily paid for Lily's dance lessons, school supplies, health insurance, and summer camp in addition to his court-ordered child support." "Correct," my attorney replied. "He has never requested reimbursement." The judge nodded thoughtfully. Jessica looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. My attorney wasn't trying to embarrass her. He simply kept presenting facts. Then he walked to the evidence table one final time. "Your Honor, there's one more exhibit." Jessica immediately stood. "No." Her attorney looked confused. "What is it?" She whispered frantically, "Don't." It was the first time all day she'd sounded genuinely afraid. My attorney calmly placed a sealed envelope in front of the judge. Exhibit 27. The judge opened it. Inside was a stack of printed messages. She read the first page, then the second. Her expression changed completely. She looked directly at Jessica. "Mrs. Reynolds." Jessica's voice shook. "Yes. Who is Amanda?" Jessica's face went completely white. Because Amanda wasn't a family member. She wasn't a coworker. Amanda was Jessica's best friend. And according to the messages now sitting in the judge's hands, Amanda knew exactly what Jessica had been planning from the very beginning. Jessica looked like she couldn't breathe. Her attorney leaned toward her. "Jessica." She didn't respond. The judge held up the printed messages. "I asked you a question." Jessica swallowed. "She's my friend." "Your best friend?" "Yes." The judge nodded once. "These appear to be text messages between the two of you." "They are." "And you don't dispute their authenticity?" Jessica looked at her attorney again. He quietly whispered, "Answer the question." "No." My attorney stood. "Your Honor." These records were obtained legally during discovery after Ms. Reynolds voluntarily produced a backup of her phone. Jessica closed her eyes. She'd completely forgotten those messages existed. The judge began reading. The first few messages weren't particularly important. Complaints about work, weekend plans, restaurant recommendations. Then she reached a conversation dated 4 months before Jessica filed for sole custody. She read it aloud. "Amanda, do you really think you can get full custody?" The courtroom was silent. Then the next message. "Jessica, I don't know yet, but if everyone starts believing he's an absent father, it'll be a lot easier." My stomach tightened. Even though I'd already read the messages, hearing them spoken out loud in a courtroom hit differently. Jessica stared at the table. The judge continued, "Amanda, but he has Lily all the time." Then came Jessica's reply. Asterisk. "Not if I keep saying he doesn't." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The judge slowly placed that page aside and picked up the next one. Another conversation. A few weeks later. "Amanda, aren't you worried Lily will tell people she's with Michael?" Jessica had answered with a laughing emoji before typing. Asterisk, she's 7. Adults believe adults. I heard someone behind me quietly exhale. Even Jessica's attorney looked stunned. The judge removed her glasses. She looked directly at Jessica. "Did you send these messages?" Jessica's lips trembled. "Yes." "Did you knowingly attempt to create the false impression that Mr. Carter was uninvolved in his daughter's life?" Jessica started crying. "I was angry." The judge didn't react. "I asked whether you knowingly created that impression." Jessica covered her face. "Yes." For the first time since the hearing began, there was no argument left. No misunderstanding. No missing context. Just an admission. My attorney waited a moment before speaking again. "Your Honor, there's one final conversation." Jessica's head snapped up. "No!" Her voice cracked. "Please don't." The judge looked down at the last few pages. This conversation took place 2 days before today's hearing. Jessica's attorney frowned. "I haven't seen these." "They were produced this morning after receiving supplemental records from the cloud backup," my attorney replied. The judge began reading silently. Her expression hardened with every line. Finally, she looked up. "Mrs. Reynolds." Jessica's tears stopped. She already knew which conversation the judge was holding. And judging by the look on her face, she also knew her case had just become far worse than simply losing custody. Jessica sat frozen. The judge looked down at the last set of messages one more time before speaking. These messages were sent 48 hours before today's hearing. Jessica's attorney quietly held out his hand. "Your Honor, may I see them?" The judge passed him the copies. As he read them, the color drained from his face. He slowly lowered the papers and looked at Jessica. "You never told me these existed." Jessica couldn't even meet his eyes. The judge began reading aloud. "Amanda, are you nervous about court?" Jessica's reply came immediately. Asterisk, not really. If I cry a little, the judge will probably believe me. No one spoke. The judge continued. Amanda, what if Michael brings proof? Jessica answered. He won't. He's too nice to keep records. I heard my attorney quietly clear his throat. The judge turned the page. Another message. Amanda, what if Lily says she likes being with her dad? Jessica replied. I'll tell the judge she's confused. Kids repeat whatever parent spends the most money on them. The judge stopped reading. She looked directly at Jessica. So your position is that your daughter is only truthful when she agrees with you? Jessica wiped away tears. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? No answer. The judge let the silence linger. Finally, Jessica whispered, I was frustrated. The judge nodded slowly. Frustration does not excuse dishonesty. Jessica's attorney stood. Your Honor, if I may. The judge gestured for him to continue. My client acknowledges these messages were inappropriate. Inappropriate, the judge repeated. Counselor, your client admitted under oath that she intentionally attempted to create a false narrative about the father of her child. He lowered his head. Yes, Your Honor. She made another note, then looked toward my attorney. Anything further? I have one final witness. Jessica looked up sharply. A witness? My attorney nodded. Yes. Her attorney frowned. You didn't disclose another witness. We disclosed the witness yesterday after receiving confirmation. The judge checked the filing. That's correct. Jessica looked completely confused. Who? My attorney smiled politely. The court-approved parenting coordinator assigned to this family 6 months ago. Jessica's face instantly went pale. She had completely forgotten about the parenting coordinator. Someone who had quietly observed both of us, taken notes, attended custody exchanges, and documented everything without taking sides. The courtroom doors opened. A woman in a navy suit walked inside carrying a thick file. She took the witness stand, raised her right hand, and was sworn in. Then she looked directly at the judge. I've been waiting a long time to tell the court what I've actually seen. And for the first time that day, Jessica looked genuinely terrified. The parenting coordinator introduced herself. My name is Karen Douglas. I'm a licensed family mediator and court-appointed parenting coordinator. She'd been working with high-conflict custody cases for almost 15 years. The judge nodded. Mrs. Douglas, you've worked with both parents? Yes, Your Honor. For how long? Approximately 6 months. Jessica's attorney stood. Just to clarify, you're not here to recommend a custody outcome? No. I'm here to report my observations. The judge gestured for her to continue. Karen opened a thick binder filled with handwritten notes. I've observed 12 custody exchanges, reviewed communication between both parents, spoken with Lily's school, and documented compliance with the parenting plan. She looked toward me first. Mr. Carter has never missed a scheduled exchange that wasn't first requested or approved by Ms. Reynolds. She turned another page. He has consistently arrived early. Another page. He has never spoken negatively about Ms. Reynolds in Lily's presence during any interaction I observed. Jessica stared at the floor. Karen continued. In fact, on 2 occasions, I witnessed Mr. Carter redirect conversations when Lily attempted to repeat negative comments about her mother. The judge wrote something down. What did he say? Karen smiled faintly. He told Lily, your mom loves you very much. Adults sometimes disagree, but you never have to choose between us. I remembered saying it. I hadn't realized anyone else had heard. Karen flipped to another section. On the other hand, Jessica slowly looked up. I documented repeated instances in which Ms. Reynolds discussed court proceedings during custody exchanges while Lily was present. Jessica immediately interrupted. I never dash. The judge raised her hand. You'll have an opportunity to respond. Karen continued. On 3 separate occasions, I noted Ms. Reynolds saying things such as, she read directly from her notes. Tell your father not to waste everyone's time in court. Another, maybe Daddy will finally start acting like a parent. And another. The judge will decide where you really belong. The courtroom was silent. Karen closed the notebook for a moment. I also observed Lily's reactions. The judge leaned forward. What did you observe? Karen's voice softened. Each time these comments were made, Lily became noticeably anxious. Can you explain? She stopped speaking. She avoided eye contact. On one occasion, she began crying before getting into Mr. Carter's vehicle. Jessica quietly shook her head. That's not why she cried. Karen looked at her. I can only testify to what I personally observed. Then she opened a sealed envelope. I also have notes from an individual meeting with Lily that both parents previously consented to. Jessica's attorney immediately stood. Your Honor, the judge interrupted. I'll allow limited testimony. Proceed carefully. Karen nodded. I did not ask Lily which parent she wanted to live with. I never ask children to choose. Instead, she'd asked Lily one simple question. What makes you happiest? Karen looked down at her notes. Lily answered. She paused. Then read the sentence exactly as it had been written months earlier. I like when Mommy smiles, and I like when Daddy doesn't have to be sad anymore. The room went completely still. Karen swallowed before continuing. Then Lily said something else. She looked directly at the judge. It wasn't in response to any question. Jessica slowly closed her eyes, almost as if she already knew what was coming. Karen, read the next line. Mommy says if I tell people I miss Daddy, he'll take me away forever. The courtroom fell into absolute silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Even Jessica's attorney looked stunned. The judge slowly removed her glasses. She looked directly at Jessica. Mrs. Reynolds. Her voice was calm, but far colder than it had been all day. I sincerely hope. She glanced at the parenting coordinator's notes one more time. There is an explanation for why your 7-year-old believes she has to hide the fact that she misses her father. Jessica was crying before the judge even finished speaking. I never told her that. Karen, the parenting coordinator, remained calm. I can only testify to what Lily said during our session. Jessica's attorney stood quickly. Your Honor, children can misunderstand adult conversations. They can, the judge agreed. But that doesn't explain everything we've heard today. She looked at the growing stack of evidence on her desk. The custody calendar, the text messages, the bank records, the social media posts, Amanda's messages, Karen's notes. Each piece alone raised questions. Together, they told a very different story than the one Jessica had presented. The judge folded her hands. I have one question for both parents. She looked at me first. Mr. Carter. Yes, Your Honor. If I asked your daughter who the better parent is, what do you think she'd say? I didn't need time to answer. I hope she'd say she doesn't have one. The judge looked up. I continued. Because she shouldn't have to. The bailiff called for everyone to stand. The judge took her seat, looked over the courtroom one last time, and then began reading from the written order she'd just signed. This court's responsibility is not to reward one parent or punish the other. She paused. It is to determine what is in the best interests of the child. She looked directly at Jessica. Mrs. Reynolds, this court has heard testimony, reviewed documents, and considered the recommendations of the parenting coordinator. She turned a page. Unfortunately, I find that your credibility has been significantly undermined. Jessica slowly lowered her head. The judge continued. You knowingly submitted an incomplete custody calendar. You omitted text messages that contradicted your claims. You admitted under oath that you attempted to create the impression that Mr. Carter was an uninvolved father. Another page. You also made statements to third parties indicating your intent to influence how others viewed Mr. Carter's relationship with his daughter. The courtroom was completely silent. The judge looked toward me. Mr. Carter. Yes, Your Honor. The evidence presented shows a father who consistently exercised parenting time, maintained financial support beyond what was required, participated in his daughter's education, and demonstrated a willingness to cooperate even when cooperation was not returned. I felt my throat tighten. Not because I'd won. Because someone had finally seen the truth. The judge folded her hands. Accordingly, she glanced at the order. This court denies Mrs. Reynolds' petition for sole custody. Jessica closed her eyes. But the judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, due to the court's concern regarding parental alienation and the intentional interference with the father-daughter relationship, she looked directly at Jessica. The existing custody arrangement will be modified. Jessica's attorney slowly sat back in his chair. He already knew what was coming. The judge continued. Effective immediately, the parties shall share equal parenting time on a week-on, week-off schedule. My heart nearly stopped. Equal parenting time. Not because I wanted to win, because Lily would finally have guaranteed time with both parents. The judge added one final condition. Mrs. Reynolds shall complete a court-approved co-parenting and parental alienation education program. If the court receives further evidence that either parent attempts to manipulate the child's relationship with the other, she looked over her glasses. This court will reconsider primary custody. Jessica broke down completely. She wasn't crying because of the schedule. She was crying because she realized she'd lost the one thing she'd spent months trying to control. The narrative. As the hearing ended, people began gathering their files. I quietly thanked my attorney. He smiled. I told you the truth keeps better records than lies. I thought it was over. Then the courtroom door opened again. The bailiff stepped inside. Mr. Carter? Yes. Judge Henderson would like to speak with both attorneys in chambers for a moment. My attorney looked surprised. So did Jessica's. We waited outside for nearly 15 minutes. When they came back out, Jessica's attorney looked defeated. Mine looked thoughtful. What happened? I asked. He smiled faintly. The judge asked one final question. What question? He handed me a copy of the order. She wanted to know whether there was any reason Lily shouldn't spend this weekend with you. I frowned. There isn't. I know. He tapped the paper. Neither could Jessica's attorney. Then he looked at me with a smile I'd never seen before. And that's not even the best part. I looked at him, confused. What do you mean? He reached into his briefcase and handed me another envelope. Inside was something I hadn't expected to see. A letter from Lily's school. And after reading the first paragraph, I realized the hearing hadn't just cleared my name. It had uncovered one more lie Jessica had been hiding from me for months. I looked at the letter again. It was from Lily's elementary school principal. At the top, in bold, were the words, Parent Contact Records. I frowned. What is this? My attorney pointed to the highlighted section. Read it. According to the school's records, Jessica had submitted a written request 4 months earlier asking the office to remove me as Lily's primary emergency contact. She'd also instructed the school that all notices, field trip forms, report cards, and event invitations should be sent only to her. The principal had refused. School policy required equal access for both legal parents unless a court ordered otherwise. So instead of removing me, the school quietly kept sending me copies of everything. The principal had attached a note. Mr. Carter has consistently attended school events and remained actively involved despite repeated requests from the other parent to limit communication. We felt it was important for the court to have a complete record. I folded the letter slowly. Jessica hadn't just lied to the court. She had tried to erase me from my daughter's everyday life. Not by taking Lily away overnight, but one school form at a time, one email at a time, one permission slip at a time. It was the kind of thing no one would notice until years later. And thankfully, the school had noticed. That Friday afternoon, I picked Lily up from Jessica's house. She climbed into my truck wearing her little dinosaur backpack and smiled the second she saw me. Hi, Daddy. Hey, Bug. She buckled herself in. As we drove away, she looked out the window for a minute before asking, Are you and Mommy still mad at each other? Kids always know more than adults think. I chose my words carefully. We don't always agree, but we both love you. She nodded. Then she reached over and slipped her tiny hand into mine. I'm happy I get to see you more. That one sentence was worth more than every piece of evidence we'd presented in court. Over the next few months, things slowly settled down. Jessica completed the parenting classes the judge ordered. At first, every exchange was awkward. Then, they became civil. She stopped making comments in front of Lily. She stopped posting about me online. The vague Facebook posts disappeared. So did the attempts to start arguments at pickup. Whether it was because she had changed or because she knew the court was watching, I honestly didn't know. What mattered was that Lily finally got some peace. About 6 months later, I was at Lily's school for her 3rd grade science fair. She'd built a volcano that erupted all over the cafeteria table. She was so proud of herself she didn't even care that the baking soda spilled onto her shoes. As we cleaned up together, her teacher smiled at me. "You know." "What?" "Lily wrote an essay last week about her hero." I laughed. "Let me guess. Taylor Swift." The teacher grinned. "No." She reached into a folder and handed me a photocopy. The title read, "My Dad." I had to blink twice before I could keep reading. In crooked 3rd grade handwriting, Lily had written, "My dad fixes cars, but he also fixes things that are broken inside people. When I am scared, he hugs me until I feel brave. He never says bad things about my mom even when he is sad. My dad says love is something you do every day." I think he is right. I couldn't finish the last paragraph without tearing up. Not because I'd won a court case. Because somehow, despite everything she'd been caught in the middle of, my little girl had still learned what love looked like. A year later, my attorney invited me to speak at a seminar for newly divorced parents. He wanted someone to talk about staying calm when the other parent tried to provoke them. At the end of the seminar, one father asked me, "How did you get revenge after everything your ex did?" I thought about it for a moment. Then I smiled. "I didn't." He looked confused. I continued, "I cleared my name. I protected my daughter. And I let the truth do the work I was tempted to do myself. Because here's what I learned. Lies can make headlines. They can fill social media. They can even walk confidently into a courtroom. But lies have one weakness. They need constant protection. The truth doesn't. It just needs one chance to be heard." Jessica walked into court believing she was about to prove I was a pathetic excuse for a father. She walked out having to explain why she spent months trying to convince a little girl that loving her dad was something she should hide. In the end, I didn't win because I had the better lawyer. I won because every bedtime story, every school pickup, every pancake Saturday, every hug, every receipt, every text message, and every promise I kept left a trail that no lie could erase. And when the judge finally looked at that trail, she didn't just see a father. She saw the truth.